serving the Louisiana Department of Education and leading our work around both behavioral intervention and alternative education. It is my sincere pleasure to welcome you all here today. Really excited. This has been 2 years in the planning and delighted to finally see this come to fruition. We are going to start today with the national anthem, and I am really excited to introduce Caleb Russell to you. He is a senior at the LSU Laboratory School and is a member of not only the state men's honor choir, but the national men's honor choir. So please help me welcome Caleb to the stage.
Oh, say, can you see by the dawn's early light what so proudly we hailed at the twilight's last gleaming, whose broad stripes and bright stars through the perilous fight o'er the ramparts we watched were so gallantly streaming, and the rocket's red glare, the bombs bursting in air, gave proof through the night that our flag was still there. Oh, say, does that star-spangled banner yet wave o'er the land of the free and the home of the brave?
Let's give Caleb another round of applause. I think we know why he's a member of both of those honor choirs. Fantastic. Well, we began the work for this summit in January of 2017. And we started by convening a large group of stakeholders that created the Alternative Education Study Group. That group was charged with doing an environmental scan of the current state of practice of alternative education in Louisiana. And we had a lot of meetings, did a really significant amount of data analysis, and around 70 site visits. And what became very clear through that work and the data analysis and the visits was it was critical that we redesign how alternative education was delivered in Louisiana. What also became clear is that alternative education and its practice in Louisiana was intrinsically linked to how we do behavioral intervention at our traditional schools. On average, we suspend and expel roughly 18,000 students annually to alternative sites. In 2017-2018, African American students represented 43% of our state student population, yet the same population made up 78% of our state's suspensions and expulsions. In that same year, the percentage of public school students classified as economically disadvantaged was 67%, but those students represented 89% of our students referred to alternative education sites. 88% of all of the students we send to alternative education sites are there for non-violent offenses. Those include willful disobedience, uniform violations, excessive tardies. These are the types of behaviors that could and should be addressed through evidence-based practice at our traditional schools. I think the most unsettling statistic that we learned through this work is once a student is referred to an alternative site, regardless of age and grade, they are 5 times more likely than their peers to drop out of school altogether. The students that present behavioral issues are often our most challenging. They're often our most vulnerable as well. And for these students to be successful, we must prioritize evidence-based behavioral interventions that we use early and frequently to assist students in gaining important social emotional skills and replacement behaviors to prevent behavioral escalation. We have to prioritize sending students to alternative sites that have the most intensive and extensive needs. We need to provide those students with individualized plans to get them back on a successful path so that they can have positive academic and behavioral outcomes. The goal of today's summit is to provide a day of intensive learning around these topics so that you can go back to your schools and your school systems and implement a multi-tiered system of support to create a systemic approach to behavioral intervention. The roadmap for this includes 5 core components that were identified by our Behavioral Intervention Study Group: high-quality content and curriculum, accountability, professional learning, of which today is a prime example, continuums of support for both students and staff, and data-based decision-making. We have a robust schedule for you today. That is why we have coffee all day long on the second floor. You will thank me for that this afternoon. During lunch, you're going to hear from some of your colleagues, several frontline practitioners, who are going to speak directly to both the challenges and the opportunities of implementing a multi-tiered system of support to respond to student behavior. We hope that you take away the content, tools, and resources that you need to go back and feel energized and excited to implement these changes. I now have the honor of introducing our morning keynote speaker. Melissa Stilley joins us as superintendent from Tangipahoa Schools. She has worked in education since 1988, beginning her career as an elementary school teacher in Tangipahoa. Since that time, she has served in pretty much every functional capacity in education that you could envision, working in both district-level positions as well as state-level positions. But in each of those roles, her focus has been on improving schools to better serve students while simultaneously providing enhanced resources to our educators so that they're equipped to do what they need to do to help students improve their outcomes. So please help me in welcoming Melissa to the podium.
Good morning and welcome. As Katie said, my name is Melissa and I am a first-year superintendent. I think I'm on about month 7 as superintendent in Tangipahoa Parish, and I'm also the first female superintendent in Tangipahoa Parish. Thank you. So to all the female colleagues out in the audience, you know, very proud to pave the way for more of our females to become superintendents across our great state. I have been an educator, as Katie said, for over 30 years. I've served as a classroom teacher, disciplinarian, principal. I have worked at the district level and statewide with districts across the state. Many of the districts that may be here today, I have been in the room with you and had meetings in your district or maybe perhaps even in your schools. I, like you, like many of you, have worn many hats during my career. But through all the roles as an educator, I am most proud to say that I am a recovering, I'll say that again, I am a recovering junior high principal and disciplinarian. Yay! Now, how many junior high folks do we have out in the audience? Just raise your hand. God bless you. As they would say, that I've been there, done that, and I have the t-shirt. So I've been in your shoes. And when I came on as superintendent, you know, one of the big questions that I was asked during the interview was about discipline and what would we do about discipline. And I had been looking at the data for our parish, and I knew that we were above the national average in suspensions across our district, and of course we had some schools that had higher rates of suspension. And so that's always a question that you'll get asked many times, and it certainly was brought to my attention. So we started this work back in the summer and the fall, beginning to really just reflect on our discipline practices, how students were getting to our alternative schools, and not just improving the alternative setting, but also looking at how kids arrived, how did they get there in the first place, and realize that we have a systematic problem, a challenge that we have to solve in our parish. Today, we have a wonderful opportunity to learn together. I think this is the first time ever that the Department of Education has hosted a summit to pull together the resources and supports out there for discipline, which is, a very common challenge that we all have in education. We're here together to learn evidence-based approaches to deal with student behavior. Approaches that are more proactive and look at it as a prevention model for behavior intervention rather than the antiquated discipline models from the 80s that we see in many of our schools in our district and across the state. Our current discipline models are focused on punitive consequences and the exclusion of students from our schools, never really teaching our students replacement behaviors or better ways to handle tough situations. And let us not forget about our failures with alternative education and the need to redesign high-quality alternative education programs that focus on building effective multi-tier systems of support, utilizing these evidence-based practices that we'll learn about more today. And so, like in our district, a lot of schools around the state, discipline sort of looks like this. Here are the rules. If you don't conform to the rules, here are the consequences. If you choose to break the rules, here's what's going to happen. We have ladders of offenses as students progress up the ladder. Bottom line, if you don't conform to our expectations, then we will vote you off the island and we will send you to an alternative site that is most likely failing. But we continue to have the same repeat offenders coming into our offices. How many school administrators do we have in this room? Just raise your hand. You know, you have about 12, 15, maybe 20% of your population that you see over and over and over again, almost every week, repeating the same behaviors that they did even last year. Now let's give ourselves a little credit because we have tried new approaches since the 80s. We added PBIS into the mix. So we reward students for their good behavior, which works for some students in our parish. Does this sound familiar? The antiquated discipline models from the 80s have been detrimental for our most at-risk students in terms of academic achievement, graduation rates, and quality of life after high school. Because of their multiple suspensions and exclusions from the school and the classroom. Look, we can have the best high-quality curriculum in the state and the nation. We can provide professional development for our teachers to be effective in teaching high-quality curriculum. We can have the best workforce ever. But if we're not addressing the large number of our students that are being put out of our schools through either suspension or expulsion, then we're really burying our heads in the sand. Most of us in this room today obviously are here because you have high suspension rates or expulsion rates in your district, which landed you on the list of UIR schools for discipline. If you ask any teacher or administrator anywhere, they will tell you that discipline is a major issue at their school, if it's not the number one issue they face every day. If any of you, interview for any position in education, whether it's a teacher, administrative, district person, superintendent, doesn't matter, you can bet you will be asked about discipline. Why? Because we know we have a broken system, and we're hoping that someone has the answer. Yet we keep doing the same ineffective approach over and over, year after year, expecting something different. Albert Einstein said that the definition of insanity, is doing the same thing over and over and expecting different results. Statistics will tell us that if a student is suspended just one time, they're 3 more times likely to be incarcerated as an adult. Yet, we continue to build more jails. Black students are 3.5 times more likely to be suspended than their white peers, sometimes for the very same behaviors as their classmates. Our current practices in discipline lead us to build what is known and what people talk about as the school to prison pipeline. The students that we are suspending and expelling actually are making their way to the prisons because we're not helping them to actually change their behaviors, and they're falling more academically behind every year than their peers. It's much easier to try to change the behaviors of children than adults. So I always like to ask this question, and I have some folks from our district here. I always like to ask this question. It's one of my favorites, and I stole this from Dr. Phil. And so I'll ask this question: how is this working for us? Mic drop. I challenge each of you to take advantage of this wealth of information that we have in this building today. The LDOE has done a wonderful job in pulling together the resources and the supports that are evidence-based for interventions and a tiered support model. The one-size-fits-all 80s model does not work anymore. Take advantage of this opportunity. Have an open mind. Be a sponge. Listen. Share. Ask questions. At the end of the day, when you're walking to the garage to get in your car, I hope you walk away better informed, more equipped, more empowered to do something different. As I said, we started this journey in Tangi back in the summer, fall. We don't know all the answers, but we do know that what we've been doing for years is not working. and we have to work together to figure out what is the solution. And days like today help facilitate that change. Create a more effective way that is evidence-based to address the discipline issues in your school or district. Let today be the day that we rethink how we do discipline in our schools. Thank you.
Can we give her another round of applause, please? I think Tangipahoa is very, very fortunate to have Melissa Stilley at the helm, and we are excited to see what happens there as she continues to forge forward with new practice and evidence-based approaches to discipline. I do need to give you some really important logistical information that will also be on the screens here. We are going to transition to the morning sessions in just a few moments. Because there are so many of you here today, which is awesome, we ask that you exit both the rear of this room as well as the front. All of the session rooms are going to be on the second floor off that one major corridor, so very easy to locate and find. Lots of you have been asking about the event booklet. There are a few places that you can access this. One is through the reminder email that you received yesterday through Eventbrite. That booklet is hyperlinked in that email. It is also available on the LDOE homepage. If you go to the search box and type in behavior and discipline, it will take you to a brand new landing page that launched this week with a slew of resources around evidence-based practice and intervention, and you will see a separate box that says Behavioral Intervention Summit. The booklet is there along with all of the PowerPoints that are being presented today during the concurrent sessions. The third place you can access the schedule and booklet is through the Event Portal app, which is separate from the Eventbrite app, and our staff in the registration area can help you identify which app you need to be using if you have any questions on that. We want you to use these resources after today, so again, everything is posted on the website. We've also launched a new alternative education redesign landing page this week off the LDOE website. We've released the application and new authorization process for alternative schools and programs that was approved by Bessie with bulletin changes in October of 2018. If you have any questions on that, we've also included our contact information, and our team is happy to follow up with you or your district. And then last but not least, you and frontline practitioners have been a critical part of this work since we began it in January of 2017. We've had multiple stakeholder organizations come together to inform and influence what you're going to see today, and we want that to continue. We are going to send you a survey on Thursday asking you about your thoughts on today. I really genuinely care about your feedback. I want to know what you think about content, presenters, format, structure, anything that you think we need to talk about next year that we didn't cover this year. Please include that in the survey so that we can continue to provide the resources and tools that you find most helpful in your day-to-day work. I'm going to stop now because you've got a full day of content from national experts, and you're again going to thank me for that coffee about 1 or 2 o'clock this afternoon when your heads are just filled with all of this information. Thank you for being here. Thank you for serving our students, and we hope you have a wonderful day.